Hello and welcome to G4G on YouTube. It is Napalm Dawn, and today we're going to take a look at Warcraft Rumble. It's a game that I've been enjoying for a few months now and have covered maybe once before, maybe twice before on the channel. I've been sticking with it for quite some time now, despite the fact that I haven't been routinely covering it. And I gotta say, yeah, I've got a pretty solid addiction to this game. As you can see, I'm not up to Elixir yet, as I'm only at 80 coins over here, and need to get up to 100. And Elixir is where you get the deep breath spell, which is known for being pretty good. But in this particular video, I wanted to talk about the Cenarion event that is going on. So prior to me getting involved in the Cenarion event, I had been reading on Reddit that it was sort of like a botched launch, and I was seeing threads where people were saying their Cenarion quests were not working properly, and they were doing things like beating up on mobs with Cenarion units, and it wasn't counting and all this other stuff. And I was like, oh, damn, okay, that doesn't sound good. And then I was playing the game, but for me, everything was working. So I'm not exactly too sure what was happening, but there was one really, really stupid moment that I had in here that was driving me crazy. And I almost posted on Reddit about it and would have made a complete jackass out of myself. But that is pertaining to this particular unit over here called Onu. And we will get to that in a moment of the really big mistake that I almost made on that one. So I've had some Cenarion units for some time now, and those Cenarion units that I had was who I like to call Brightwing. I mean, they call it a fairy dragon. I'm going to call it Brightwing because he is, or she, it is portrayed as being very similar to Brightwing, especially in HOTS. And the other one was the Earth and Moon spell. I've had these for, a reasonable amount of time. And then the whole Cenarion sort of like expansion dropped. And it gave us Cenarius as a leader. Cenarius gives allies an extra 20% empty health. And it's sort of an aura around him. It is like tranquility from druids in Heroes of the Storm and World of Warcraft and everything. There it is, tranquility. He is ranged, single target, elemental, does brambles, is a healer, is resistant. And also another new character is the Bog Beast, who comes in as a melee tank, single target, resistant again. Friends of the Forest are sure to take a liken to this resistant tank. He's just your typical, and I pun incoming bog standard tank over here. He's new. They gave us the Moonkin, which is actually a boss of a particular mission. You go up against the Moonkin, and the range of the Moonkin boss is really, really obnoxious. It hits you from far away. So far, I grabbed the talent of taking damage, increases casting speed by 50% for 5 seconds. I don't really know if that's going to be one of the top choices for the Moonkin talents, but it popped up, so I just grabbed it to have it. I don't know if this one is ranked as being good. The Moonkin is ranged, elemental, and AoE. In reality, it is a single target / AoE. The Moonkin, as it says here in the description, one tack is single target, one tack is ranged, and it keeps bouncing back and forth. My girlfriend spent many, many years of her World of Warcraft career playing a Moonkin, so she's quite familiar with the sun states and the moon states and everything, lunar eclipse, solar eclipse. I would imagine this is somewhat an automated version of what she's used to. She gravitated over to the new Drakthir for a little while in this expansion. Took a break for quite a long time, but actually, when she came back, she went back to the Moonkin. The next new unit that we got is the Ancient of War, another melee tank. This lumbering tank consumes all your gold when played and grows stronger per gold spent. I feel that this one is maybe one of the more weaker units of the Cenarion group. I feel that the increased gold cost maybe doesn't really result in that powerful of a tank, at least so far. But melee tank, one target, single target, armored, and surge, which is probably the word for, consuming your gold. And then I believe the one that I don't have currently is a treant. I think there is a treant unit out there. I think they could have maybe even gone with a will-o-wisp type of unit in there. But the reason why I said I almost did something stupid is I did not know that Onu over here was actually a leader. I thought it was a unit. I thought Cenarius was the only leader, and then Onu was a unit. And I thought, well, that's, the 6th unit over here. That's clearly what it is. And I was going crazy. I was like looking through here. I was like sorting my filters and everything. I was like, no, I don't think I have it filtered out. And I'm Googling it and I'm seeing offers, and I accidentally bought a second offer on Onu, not this one, a much cheaper one. And it was like, yep, you've got stars for Onu. I was like, where is this damn unit? Why can't I find it? And I went to the Warcraft Rumble Reddit, and people were talking about this event and everything, and somebody said that they had built like a god tier Onu and how good it was, and then people were attacking the post saying, yeah, well, you do this, it counters it, you do that, it counters it. And I had typed out, I'm like, I can't seem to find my Onu. Like, he's missing. Because he was a leader. And I had Cenarius selected, and it was all the way like this. And I couldn't see him as a leader over there. And I'm just scrolling by, and so egg on my face, almost made a complete jackass out of myself. And now that I know he is a leader and not a unit. So Onu is actually kind of interesting. He acts as a walking turret or a walking fortress where you can deploy your units to where he is. And in turn, he blocks nearby enemy troop and leader deploy. So if he happens to be at a tower, you cannot emergency save the tower by dropping somebody in there to start fighting, and potentially save the tower or from being taken over, or the meeting stone. Melee, vulnerable, single target, tank, and a new thing of safe arbor. Vulnerable unit takes 2 times elemental damage. So I think he is not vulnerable, or it is not vulnerable. I think the Ancient of Lore causes the vulnerable state. At least that's certainly what I hope. Otherwise, Onu would be fairly weak to similar Cenarion units. So, before I started the video, I was actually having a very interesting thought process in my head. I was wondering what future expansion character sets we could get. Because mostly, when you were looking at what we have, they are not a race. They are a faction. Now, you might initially, your knee-jerk might be like, well, wait a minute. Undead is a lot of like skeleton. No, like still, undead is pretty varied. You have an abomination, you have a banshee, you have a gargoyle, which I don't know if I ever would have considered a gargoyle undead. Like in Shadowlands, they're portrayed as just stone. But okay, um, you do have a lot of skeleton stuff, and you have the meat wagon, you have the necromancer, which is probably considered actually alive, but undead adjacent, a simple ghoul. You have some spells. Again, undead ghoul again here with the plague farmer. But I mean, there is some variety, but I would say maybe undead comes the closest to having just a few races in it. But then you go over and you look at Alliance, and you have gnomes, and you have night elves, and you have humans, and you have regular spells, and you have dwarven griffin riders, and you have humans again, and you have worgans, and harvest golems, and dwarves. So you have a decent variety of races. Same thing when you look at the Horde. You have Tauren. You have trolls. A couple trolls, actually, like 3 trolls. But then you also have some orcs in there. You have ogres. Interesting that they're classified as Horde. I guess it makes sense. And obviously, beasts have quite a good deal of variety. Black Rock, you bounce back and forth between dragons, elementals, core hounds, dark iron dwarves. So you definitely have not race-specific classifications in this. I was trying really, really hard to think where we might go after Cenarion, and I really can't think of it, because I was like, okay, maybe something Wrath of the Lich King based, like Nerubians. But then a lot of the Nerubians are mostly the same. You see him in Anchorage, you see him up in Northrend and everything. There's not the most amount of variety in there. And you can't say Silver Hand or Argent Crusade, because we're mostly talking, humans, and again, races that already exist in this. Can't be the Ebon Blade. It's all Death Knights, and it's just going to be humanoid characters. I really don't know where they could potentially go from here when it comes to what other factions could we see that are diverse enough that we can get a variety of things. I almost feel like they would have to start dipping into raids, because the first thought that jumped into my head of what could be next was Pandarians. That's the first thought I had. I was like, you could have sort of a Lily type character from Heroes of the Storm, a Chen kind of tank, and then I went, no. See, you're listing all named people. The grunt mobs aren't really named people. They're generic shaman and generic spear tossers for the murlocs and the trolls. I really don't know what Blizzard is going to do from here, unless potentially it is maybe raid based, like Naxxramas. Naxxramas was one of the first expansions to Hearthstone. Talked about it on a stream this week. You could potentially have a Naxxramas faction, because then you can bring in a spider, and then the kind of dog after Patchwork. But then again, when I was thinking of Naxxramas, I was like, man, see, but a lot of things fall down. If it's Naxxramas, you already have a Necromancer, which is like Gothic. You could do a Thaddeus, you could do a Kel'Thuzad, but they're all named. Like, I don't know if there is quite enough variety of mobs in Naxxramas that we already haven't done that we could do. So yeah, I don't really know where Blizzard can go from here. If you could think of a potential faction that has a variety of characters in it, a variety of races and types and everything, I'd love to hear it down in the comments below, because I certainly cannot picture it. Like, another thought that jumped into my mind was like Deep Home. but it's not, again, it's not a faction. It's just simply a zone. You have to come up with a faction that is diverse and maybe has some creatures and has some spells and some things that could act as a tank. Another thought came to my mind was like Outland. But that's, again, it's not a faction. It's not a tie that binds everybody together. Like the Horde, all of these races you see in the game, they roll up to the Horde, and it certainly makes sense. You can't roll up to quote-unquote Outlands. You could do a Draenei character, like a generic Draenei, a generic Blood Elf, a generic Mag'har, Orc, maybe a Pit Lord could be in there, maybe a Bog Strider from that zone, a Nether Drake or something like that. But again, it's not a real tie that binds. It's not a faction. So yeah, let me know down below if you can think of what faction we might get in the future that makes sense, because I can't actually think of it. So here's my progress in the Cenarion Festival quest. I do believe it, 19 days. So, I mean, you got a pretty good amount of time. So you have a login, a daily login one that gives you about 800. I've collected 5 Cenarion minis, so there's my 5,000, and that's huge. That is a lot of those Cenarion tickets. I have one more Arclight Surge to do. The ones that I was doing were pretty tough. I was doing the one that I think was around here somewhere. All the units were bloodlusted. And to be honest, the Cenarion units are not really good for bloodlust. They are sort of like very typical green mana cards from Magic the Gathering. I feel like, yes, they're very nature-oriented, but they also seem to be very big and slow and lumbering and actually kind of costly. And when you think of everybody being bloodlusted, you sort of think of smaller, quicker units like Weenie decks from red mana. So yeah, it was a bit obnoxious to do surges with Cenarion minis, but I've got just one more to do. Haven't looked into the dungeon yet. Upgrade 5 Cenarion minis to uncommon. Got 2 more left over there. Upgrade 1 to a rare. That's worth about 3,000 tickets, so that's really big. Defeat 100 enemies with Cenarion minis. I mean, yeah, I was running pretty much a full 6 out of 6 Cenarion setup. It's actually 5 out of 6, so that one went by pretty easily. Now I got to get about another 21 and get another 2,000 tickets over there. This one's already done. Deal damage 15 times to bosses or barracks with the Ancient of War. Have a Bog Beast basically just do its job. Tank. Got that one done. Purchase 7 items on the grid. By the way, you want to make sure you really scroll through the list. It is not like what you would typically expect, where it throws the ones you completed all up at the top. No, like scroll. Scroll all the way to the bottom and make sure you've collected everything properly. So, still got a few left. I think I'll have this one nailed probably by the time everybody's watching the video. Not too sure. I mean, this one's, it depends on if it shows up in the grid and everything. Upgrade 2 Cenarion minis to rare. Actually, one of the ones that I did is because I did a second purchase by mistake. Because I thought, I was like, oh, maybe the first one didn't go through and that's why I can't find it. I don't know that I'm getting anybody to Epic during this event, to be honest. Defeat 200 enemies, plus the ones that come after it. That should be relatively easy. 14 items in the grid should be easy. Purchase a daily offer. Maybe not. Not too sure about that one. Defeat 50 enemies with Earth and Moon. Shame it never counted all the ones that I had done prior to that. Poison 60 enemies with Earth and Moon. I don't PvP in this, so I doubt I'm ever getting the honor one. Summon a 10 cost Ancient of War. God. I feel like that's that's a really tough one. That one might be summon it and just end the battle. I don't know if you get credit, but that'll be interesting. Summon 10 minis near Onu in a single match. I feel like maybe not 10, but I feel like I have some progress on this. It just has to be in a single match. 2 towers with Onu, defeat Moonglade Heroic with a full base health. A lot of people on Reddit are like, how do I do this one? And defeat a Moonglade Heroic within 2 minutes. Again, people on Reddit have been asking that one. So going through the rewards, I stopped last night at that Fort Tome because I was aiming towards the Moonkin upgrade over there. A lot of people, I hear some good talk about Execute. And there we go. That's what I was going for over here was the Moonkin. But now he's already gone through the 3 rank. Now he's on the 10. The rest I'm going to hold off until later so that I can plan it out. That's how I picked up Cenarius over there. And in all honesty, still my favorite deck is my elemental deck over here with General Drakosith. I think he's rated as basically a D tier leader at this point, and I think people also are kind of clowning Flamewalker. But I really like this deck. It's a ton of elemental damage. When you land the elemental damage near him, that leader ability does really good, especially if you land a safe pilot, the Nomelia Earhart over here. The Drakes also do good damage when they're near Drakosith. So as you can see, yeah, this one is clearly my favorite, my absolute top deck. Shaman are great. I think they're a S tier unit. And then secondly, Tyrion Fordring is maybe my second favorite deck over here. May want to swap out the squad at some point, but Alliance, I wonder if yeah, he counts the squad. The Mountaineer is not good. As far as I know, Mountaineer is basically crap tier on everybody's list. I've not upgraded him at all. I guess that's what they're trying to go for in the squad slot, but I can't bring myself to do it. I really can't. But yeah, Warcraft Rumble, folks. There is the Cenarion event, and my progress on it over on Reddit. I have seen some threads saying that they feel the Cenarion units are underwhelming, and I feel they could use maybe a bit more AoE, like the Drake, something equivalent to what the kind of damage the Drake can do, and maybe one more spell, but I don't exactly know what spell it could be, unless maybe Will of the Wisp could be used as a particular spell that when you cast it, friendly units are healed and enemy units have decreased armor, or vulnerable, something like that, like back when druids used to have fairy fire in World of Warcraft that would reduce armor and cause a lot of threat and everything. That could be an interesting spell. But yeah, let me know what you think about the event if you're playing it, the Cenarion units, and let me know what other potential factions you think Warcraft Rumble could do that has grunt units. Because remember, unless it's elite, only the leaders are named. None of these guys here are actually a name unit. Like, that is not Patchwork. That is just an abomination. So, what other factions out there could we do that have a solid enough variety that everybody isn't just a race, like it's all night elves or it's all dwarves or it's all Tauren or something like that? I'm really curious to pick you guys' brains on this, because I really can't think of it. I really don't know what other factions are out there. I mean, to say BlackRock is a faction, yeah, the water is maybe a little muddy on this one, because again, it sort of more pertains to a location. But if they are doing Blackrock, then maybe we could actually see a kind of raid-based quote unquote faction. And I almost wonder if it would, like, Next Ramus would be one of the easiest places to start. Maybe Dragon Soul, there's kind of a good variety of things that happens in Dragon Soul. Or I can't even say the Firelands, because we have some Firelands related things already in the Blackrock stuff. So yeah, what do you guys think? Really interested in hearing. Thanks for checking out the video.